everybody, Ragiroth here. So now for this week's opinion video, I wanted to go for something a bit less common than last week's. And that's my top 10 favorite personas from the Persona series. I haven't really seen too many people make lists about this, which is somewhat shocking. But I guess, the personas themselves don't get that much attention, weirdly enough, and I guess in terms of things to talk about with the Persona series. So I figured I'd want to do something at least a little more refreshing. Now, when I say top 10 personas, I mean the actual personas created for the Persona spin-off series from Shin Megami Tensei. Even though the protagonists of the games can use other SMT demons like Pixie or Jack Frost, for the sake of this video, I'm not talking about them. But I will probably make a video for my top 10 SMT demons later down the line. And yes, I do realize that some of these personas exist as demons, like other versions of them, in other SMT games. But for this video, I'm obviously talking about like the personified, versions of them. Now, design is a huge factor, probably one of the only factors in some of these cases. But importance to me, or I guess nostalgic value, I should probably say. Gameplay reasons, especially with Persona 4 Arena and the Persona 5 Scramble games help them with that. And lore would help as well. Now there will be spoilers for Persona 3, 4, and 5. So if you haven't beaten any of those, watch out. So I got 10 picks with 5 honorable mentions. Let's get this started. Number 10. Hades. Okay, so I probably should just get this out of the way. I haven't played Persona 2. I know, I am a filthy casual that has only played Persona 3, 4, and 5, and a couple of the SMT games. I knew of this Persona because its user, Ekichi, if I'm saying that right, is I think the only Death Arcana party member in the whole series that I'm aware of. Why is that anyway? But because of this, he has a sick ultimate persona, at least that's what I think it is. That's what it seemed like from the wiki. But I mean, how can you really trump the Lord of the Dead? Really crazy design too, that definitely had that older PlayStation era SMT feel to it. But me not really being familiar with the game, character, or persona is why Hades is so low on this list. But I definitely had to mention it in there. Number 9. Messiah. So Messiah is basically the ultimate persona of Persona 3. A literal fusion of the starting persona, Orpheus, and I guess the tier 2 persona, Thanatos. It's basically the persona equivalent of Jesus. Doesn't really look a thing like Jesus, but it might talk like a gentleman. Aha, music references. But Messiah just looks like a really cool, divine persona, but with that still, I guess, SMT charm? Plus Orpheus and Thanatos are already pretty sick, so obviously a fusion of them has to still be cool. This persona could have been a bit higher, but these personas are always super hard to get, so you don't really get much experience with them. So I guess it doesn't get as much personal attachment with me. Not a great reason, I know, but eh. Number 8. Arsene. I'm just gonna say it, Arsene is easily my favorite starting persona. I mean, it's a fancy, edgy magician guy with wings and the curse element. It's right up my alley. Not to mention its voice is pretty cool as well. What holds this persona back is actually the opposite of Messiah. Yeah, you have for basically the whole game, but the problem is it's so weak it eventually just gets much... It eventually just doesn't get much stronger and more helpful without alternative methods. I really wish they'd make it easier to keep the starting personas more relevant, since they're awesome and integral. Arsene definitely gets bonus points for its portrayal in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as well. Number 7. Kamui Suzuno. I hope I said that right. Yusuke is one of my favorite party members in Persona 5. His persona? I don't hate it, and I understand why it is the way it is, but I guess it's just not really my cup of tea. But if you max out his social link and get his ultimate persona, oh my god. Damn, talk about an improvement. Literally looks like one of the Oni forms from the Onimusha series. Though considering the subject matter, I guess that's not shocking. and it's an ultimate persona, so you know it's going to kick some ass. And since Yusuke you get fairly early on, it's a bit easier to get his ultimate persona. Not to mention, I don't think you needed a specific stat to be able to start a social link with Yusuke or continue it. I could be wrong about that though. So I was able to get Kamui on my first run, and it was pretty late, but not that late in the game. Hopefully I can get it again in Royal as well. Speaking of Royal, unfortunately Yusuke's third tier persona is more like his first. Number 6. Safin IL. So I said that Arsene is my favorite starting persona, so it's pretty much only natural that his ultimate persona, ultimate form, is also the best. I mean, like, what's not to love about this thing? It's a demonic yet still kind of angelic being with a badass gun. It gives me some Vincent Valentine vibes. And it literally descends from the heavens and blows a goddamn hole in the final boss's face. The only thing that holds it back is sort of the same as Messiah. You get it way too late. Not to mention with Safin IL, you can't really do the attack it does on the final boss despite it being a command in the game. It's still awesome though. And maybe this is fixed in Royal, I'm not sure. Number 5. Cerberus. Now, if I didn't play Persona 3 and you told me this cute little dog was a party member, I'd think you were crazy. Now, I'd really think you were crazy if you told me this badass rendition of Cerberus was what it summoned in battle. Cerberus is a common mythological figure that appears in fiction very commonly, but the Persona 3 version might be my favorite, though the Devil May Cry version comes in a close second. Something I really love about a lot of the designs of the SMT games is that they have a supernatural yet, I guess, sci-fi type of aesthetic, and I think Cerberus is one of those that capture it really well. It's also not too busy of a design either, and while it wasn't the best at killing bosses, it was great for knocking out smaller enemies. Bonus points for its appearance in Ken's moveset in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, though I do wish it was used a bit more. Number 4. Magatsu Izanagi. Finally a persona from Persona 4. Now honestly, I first wanted to put this one a bit higher, but it is just a recolor of the main protagonist persona from P4, so I'd held it back a little bit. Even still, it's a really sick recolor. I love the cracks, or I guess veins, it has in its body. And I think Magatsu translates to like stained or tainted, and it really shows. Always kind of thought this version of him was like dipped in, this version of Izanagi was like dipped in cranberry juice or something. Another big factor here is who Magatsu is attached to, and it's none other than my favorite P4 character, Tomodachi. Magatsu really shows off in its animations that it's a more savage and brutal version of Muse Izanagi. I really like this in both P4 and the fighting games that it appears in. Definitely helps that Adachi is my main in both cases, and it even uses basically my two favorite elements, dark or curse, and electricity. Number 3. Loki. Wait, no, not that Loki. No, not that Loki either. Okay, there we go. Basically, this Loki is the Magatsu Izanagi equivalent in Persona 5, I'd say at least. It gets the extra bump because it's a totally unique design, and I also think that the build-up and reveal of it was a bit better. And thanks to Persona 5 Royal, you can actually use Loki with this Persona user, who, if it hasn't been obvious already, is my favorite Persona 5 character. Now, Magatsu Izanagi you could use in P4 Golden, but it was a bit more of a ballbuster to get, and you couldn't use him as Adachi. That aside, though, Loki just has a fantastic design. It's a really neat take on the God of Mischief, and the comic and the chaotic nature in its design shows. It's also cool that it's kind of a contrast to Robin Hood, or maybe a complement. Using curse magic and now supposedly almighty magic helps Loki out as well. Only we got to use in Persona 5 Scramble. Maybe in an arena game eventually? Number 2. Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi debuted and sadly has mainly really only been in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Though it is in PQ2 and it might be in Royal as well as a DLC persona, I forget. But holy shit is it a sexy persona. Again, it has that supernatural kind of sci-fi look to it. I think it's also neat that it's kind of a mix of a Persona 3 and Persona 4 persona. Probably because the Persona user, Sho Minazuki, is tied to a Persona 3 character and more of the lore of that game. But Tsukiyomi itself is from the Japanese mythology like the Persona 4 personas are.
I also really like that it's a Moon Arcana and tied to the Moon, because I feel like there's also not many Moon Arcana users, just like aren't that many Death ones. And its attacks in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax are very cool as well. Sadly, it's sort of the opposite in the situation Loki's in, where Sho and it are kind of stuck to the spin-offs, though maybe not as bad at least. Okay, so before I reveal my number 1 pick, of course I gotta mention the honorable mentions. And they are Captain Kidd from Persona 5, Artemisia from Persona 3, Johanna from Persona 5, and I might be saying this wrong, but Valijean from Persona 5 Scramble. Number 1, Thanatos. Yeah, I know. A lot of these personas are pretty big edgelord personas that I've chosen, and Thanatos is probably one of the biggest ones. But look, Persona 3 was my first of the Persona games. You don't know how sick it was getting Orpheus, which was already kind of cool looking, and then getting a quick glimpse of Thanatos. I was dying to know what that thing was and how to get it. I remember grinding a lot to get Thanatos, and I was glad I did. It sucks because back then, though, dark and light spells weren't as useful.
Ooh, Hamon! Pretty scary, huh?
But even still, it's pretty beastly. And now when you can use it in the new games, it can be even more effective with the addition of the Koha and Eiga spells. But all that aside, just look at this beast. It's like a friggin' hollow from Bleach, with coffins around it, and a katana. Granted, I would have preferred a sight, especially since Thanatos is, the god of death, but everything about it just screams awesome, and it's forever going to have a special place in my heart. Then, when Elizabeth was confirmed for Persona 4 Arena and was using Thanatos, oh, stop, I can only get so erect. The story significance of Thanatos is definitely a bonus in its favor as well. So that's my list. I know it was a little more, quick and to the point in some of my other lists, but there's a lot of other personas that I love, but I try to limit as much as I can. Let me know which personas are your favorite in the series as well. It could be from Persona 1 and 2. I don't care. I'd actually like to hear some of that. I'd definitely like to hear them, and if you guys have any similarities to my list. Thanks for checking out this video, and as I always say, another time, another place. Keep being awesome.